going to be small and cozy tonight, guys, but that doesn't necessarily mean we don't have a lot to talk about. And of course, we're joined by some few, but still some of our lovely panelists. But before that, cue the intro.
Don't know how I'm here, and it's you that I want to need. You feel your heartbeat, feel somewhere you look at me. You feel your heartbeat, feel somewhere you look at me.
Hey, people. Welcome back to episode 14 of the Chelsea Lady Show. So, as you guys can all see, we are joined by our panelists, our lovely panelists, Joyce and Sophia. It's just going to be us, but that doesn't mean we don't have a lot to say. And of course, guys, Joyce is back. So, Joyce, how are you?
I'm
I'm
good.
good.
Wait, can you hear an echo? Okay, no, it's gone now. No, I'm good. I've just taken Lamb's termed it really nicely. She said an academic sabbatical. That's what I've been on. But yeah, I'm back to keep entertaining you guys, hopefully with more football chat.
Amazing. That's what we like to hear. If anybody's taken sabbaticals for good purposes only, progressive purposes, productive purposes, Sophia, how are you? How's this week been? Enjoying the international football, taking a break? How's it been?
It's yeah and no. Part of me is kind of in international football, I think it's boring unless it's the actual Euros or World Cup, but it's better than no football, so I really can't complain.
Yeah, no, I agree. I honestly agree. But of course, I don't know about you guys, but I've been keeping in touch with the scores and I've caught up on some of the highlights this morning. But as I said to Joyce when we were on the Offside Rule stream last night, I don't really care about international football. It's one of those periods where I just kind of just sit, focus on other things, wait for it to pass, and count up the casualty list afterwards, see what the damage is. Do you know what I mean?
Honestly,
we always know what happens. Players always be getting injured, and
Kante.
I know we've got 2 casualties already. Sophia, talk.
It's just I opened Facebook this morning and it was Kante's leaving, international break is done, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. There's always one casualty in Chelsea from international break, and I'm just like, please, why?
Oh, so Joyce, how do you feel about that? Kante, Jorginho, our 2 best midfield players, possibly out for at least a couple of games. We don't know the extent of the damage.
I'm just hoping it's not serious. I'm hoping, because I think with Jorginho it's meant to be precautionary, so he didn't really play any games. And with Kante, I'm just hoping that the club have pulled him from international duty early, just so that he doesn't risk himself getting any more injured any worse than he has already. But with the games you've got coming up, I know the Premier League games they've been quite chill. We'll probably talk about those later, but we've got some really big cup games and cup quarterfinals, semi-finals coming up, so we really need our best midfielders fit.
Serious. Indeed. Talking of important fixtures coming up, I thought because it's a nice cozy panel today, international break, and us Chelsea team has gone into this international break in a really good position since Tuchel has come in as well. So first of all, I want to start off on a positive note, guys, because it's a good time to actually have this discussion at this point in the season. After a run of 14 games, it's the perfect time to actually properly give an assessment of this manager and his progress at Chelsea so far. So let's have a nice little discussion about it. Let's just go around one by one. Joyce, seeing as you've been away for a while, back from your academic sabbatical, I know you got a lot to say. I know you've been keeping an eye on Chelsea's progress as well. So let's start off with you. Give us your opinions. Chelsea under Tuchel so far. What's changed? What's gotten better? What do we still need to improve on? What's impressed you? Just have at it, Joyce. Have at it.
Well, I feel like, yeah, obviously, 'cause I've been away and I've not been, not that I haven't been watching football, but I've just kind of been like not sitting and like analyzing too deeply because I've had priorities in it. But I think what's been great to see, I think if we're going to talk about like credit, like, Tuchel has really made this team a difficult team to beat and a difficult team to break down. And I feel like at this point of the season and where we were, because we were like swimming in ninth and, I don't know if we ever reached 10th place, but we were like really not in a great place like when Lampard left. And I feel like when a manager comes in, it's about results. It's really about maximizing the results that we're going to get and doing the very best that we can do in that short period of time before we start assessing like performances and start talking about like how like the style of football. Like right now it's just about we need to get as high as we can in the table, we need to get as far as we can in all the cup competitions, and I think that's what Tuchel's done really well. He's made us difficult to beat. He's trying to maximize our squad, and I think having a new manager and a fresh face means that everyone gets a second chance, which is, for some players, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm seeing Alonso play football again. But also, it's allowed us to kind of see the best of Jorginho. Kovacic has kind of been revitalized, and people like Rudiger and Christensen, who we like completely like written off as like horrible players, are actually in like really great form right now. So it's really great that like a manager has come and like revitalized the squad. We're tough to beat. We're playing great games against top sides. I know Tottenham wasn't they were in horrible form. Liverpool, they're not really at their best, but we beat Atletico twice, and no one thought that we were going to beat Atletico. I did not think we were going to beat Atletico. So I think he's proven a lot of our detractors and his critics wrong, especially pundits who kind of just thought that he would be a horrible appointment when Lampard got sacked. I do think obviously it's quite clear that like we have an issue with scoring goals, like not making the most of the chances that we do get. Um, like our forwards just really aren't firing, and part of that is personnel. Like our personnel just aren't doing good enough, and also maybe some of it is the formation that we're playing really allowing us to be, very attacking. Having a 3-5-2 means we take a midfielder or we take an attacker out for an extra defender.
What kind of formation would you like to see Tuchel kind of try? Because obviously I know this back three with the wing backs, I know he's done it to improve us defensively and it has worked, but obviously, so what kind of formations would you like to see him try eventually?
I think with the players that we do have, I feel like a 4-2-3-1 would be nice to see. And he is someone who is an attacking manager. Who's known for being an attacking manager, especially like at Dortmund, PSG, like big clubs as well. And I think he's been a lot more like pragmatic here because I guess maybe he's had to be. But I think maybe seeing a 4-2-3-1, I think it would get the best out of someone like Havertz. We've got three wingers who would probably want to play in like their preferred positions, and that kind of thing. So I think that would maybe get more out of our attackers, especially people like Hudson-Odoi, who even though he's doing quite well as a right wing back, probably would thrive more, with slightly less defensive responsibility and being able to like push further up in the field, like as a 10 or as a left winger, like he said. I think the other day he was saying that those are his favourite positions. So that would be a nice something to try. But I think he seems like someone who could be quite flexible and will try different things. Maybe in the summer when he's had more time with his players, he might, be more flexible.
Yeah, interesting. Some very, very good points that you made there. I actually would like to see a 4-2-3-1. Another position I'd actually really also like to see is a 4-2-2-2, because I think that's another Tuchel classic, and I think that could actually really work with the squad of players that we have as well. So maybe if we don't see it before this season ends, I definitely think it's something we'll probably see next season as well, especially once he gets in the players that he actually wants in the squad come the summer transfer window. And obviously, a big part of that is now that they've abolished financial fair play, then there's no limit. You can go crazy. You can do what you want. And we know that we are in a position to be able to do that. So, it only makes the prospects of the summer transfer window even more exciting. But Sophia, I'm going to come over to you because I want to know your thoughts. How do you feel about this Chelsea team? How do you feel about Thomas Tuchel, what he's done since he's come in? Because 14 games he's had, and now we can sit here and we can give a fairly good, decent assessment of this manager and what his prospects are looking like at Chelsea. And, so far, so good. But I want to know what you think. Like, what stood out to you the most? Who do you think has thrived? Who do you think has showed up? Who do you think has surprised you? And what do you think we still need to work on that we're still lacking? What do you think Tuchel still needs to change? And, yeah, thoughts?
I definitely have to hold my hands up because I remember like beforehand I was like, no, Tuchel's not going to be that good like in the Premier League, and because he wasn't that great in Bundesliga. I'll hold my hands up and I'll be like, yeah, okay, I was wrong with that. I think because the problem is with Dortmund, he didn't have a big enough squad to rotate and like play about with. Whereas at Chelsea, like his lineups are just always so spontaneous and just keeps everyone on their toes. I think that's one good thing, like his tactics, sort of wise. But I think we are still a bit iffy with the whole striker problem. I know he's trying really hard to always kind of include Werner in everything and in all his plans. But he just needs that little bit more confidence, and I just don't know how much more time he can possibly kind of have to kind of get him back to his old like banging in goal sort of way. But I think like the one at the front, that would definitely be like the interesting sort of like the formation. But I don't know. I just part of me is kind of like, Werner used to do that at
What would
Leipzig.
like your ideal attacking like front three be for Chelsea eventually? Like if we can get them playing to form, if we can get them fit and playing, who would be like your front three ideally?
It's a bit tricky because so many of them, like because he's constantly rotating them, it's like, some compare better with others, some play better, some play worse, like when they're together. It's just, I still really don't know it. Like, I'm still a bit, and obviously that if they're, I mean, I think they're still talking about getting Haaland. I'm not sure. I think Sancho is out the window now, but I think it all depends. Like you said, now we've got rid of the financial fair play, and we're like, oh my god, like we can get these amazing strikers. We can get Haaland. We can get this and that and this and that. I don't know, sort of whether he should try with what he has first, because part of me thinks I'm really not sure we're going to get Haaland. As much we can flash him as much cash as he wants, but I really don't think he'll come to Chelsea. So I think he should stick with what he has at the moment. But I'm still sort, the rotation wise, yeah, it's good. Everyone's getting a go at proving themselves, but I think he needs to kind of start making more kind of a solid sort of team like every match, if that makes sense. Stop like the rotating sort of thing, that kind of get your good like lot at the front and see. But yeah, I still don't know, like some of them prove me really well, but some of them are kind of like still a bit iffy. I mean, like Giroud, he's my super sub, so personally I would not kind of start him. But yeah, I don't really know yet. I mean, I know he wants to improve Werner and get him back to his ways, but I don't know. Some days, he starts and he's amazing. Some days he comes on as a sub and he's shit. It's always been an issue with Chelsea. I think we've just got like a striker's curse at the moment still.
Yeah, it's true. It's almost like we still have we still have this issue where, like you said, we're struggling to score, and even with the financial fair play abolished, yes, it puts us in a very, very good position. But let's not forget there's also another team that in the Premier League that's also in a great financial position, and that's of course the pending champions, Manchester City, who, you know, and even considering what they've achieved this year without even having like a natural striker, because their midfielders are just absolutely amazing. Can you just think about the damage they can cause if they were to get, say, a Haaland in their team, and they are another team that is looking at Haaland, so we have a lot of competition for him in that position. And let's face it, if Haaland keeps on firing, he's looking like an attractive prospect for a lot of other teams who really, really do need strikers. And again, depending on where we finish, depending on who we shift out of the squad, is Tammy Abraham going to go? Is Giroud going to go? Obviously, Timo Werner is definitely going to stay because we just bought him. Will we be in a position to say and attract a Haaland? And depending, if we win anything, what position we place in the Premier League. I think personally we are going to make top four. I think Tuchel has just, you know, obviously when he came in it wasn't really looking too possible at that time. But he's just gone on an amazing run, like 14 games undefeated. I think, what was it, 4 draws and nine wins and 10, yeah, 4 draws and 10 wins, I think. Sorry, 14 games. Yeah, 10 wins and 4 draws. Crazy. That's amazing. That's unbelievable. We never would have saw that coming. We never would have thought that
At the
would
start of the
happen.
season, yeah.
Yeah,
No way.
exactly. Especially, oh God, the results that that we were getting, even the performances as well. And I think something that still hasn't changed under Lampard is that we're still lacking that clinical edge. But I think what Tuchel's done is that he's improved our defense, which is important because we were leaking a lot of goals. And we now have the second best defense in the Premier League after Manchester City, and that's largely due to him. His rotation, man management of the squad has been excellent and so intelligent as well, which means that, you know, him managing players, rotating the squad means they're not getting so much injuries as they were before. They're not so injury prone as well, especially with the packed fixture schedule coming up so soon, and unfortunately these silly international breaks in between. And he's done that so well. And now since Havertz has come back from injury, he's been phenomenal. Kante's come back from injury, he's been phenomenal. He's even started to get Ziyech playing, and we thought, you know, after the shocking games and performances that he's had, we didn't think that was possible, but it's happening. Even Chilwell, slowly but surely, he's looking a lot better, looking at gaining confidence a little bit more, and with game time, that will improve, that will increase. This is it's looking good. It's looking positive. I also wanted to ask all of you guys, what player do you feel has stood out the most, like has just shone under Tuchel's reign? And just, you know, tell me a bit of your reasons why. And yeah, Joyce.
So if I want to talk about players that have shone, I kind of want to look at like before Tuchel and after Tuchel, because I think someone, for example, like Mason Mount has performed well under Tuchel, but I think he was one of our best performers under Lampard. So although his levels maybe gone up due to kind of, you know, I don't know, better coaching, for example, but he's kind of maintained a fairly consistent level of performance. I think one person who hasn't improved but who's been allowed to shine, I think we should give credit to Jorginho, because I think he's someone who, even myself, like I've not been the biggest fan of Jorginho. I've quite audibly not been the biggest fan of Jorginho, and I think he's been pretty great for the most part. In our he's been pretty great for the most part in our in our system with like the twin sixes. Him and Kovacic have just, you know, done quite well. I think maybe Kovacic even more than Jorginho, actually. I think Kovacic has probably had more consistent performances, but I just think credit, yeah, okay, if we can afford him. Just like general, that kind of level of performance. In fact, I'll even take Jorginho out and I'll give it to Kovacic, because I just think he's been largely fantastic. His final ball probably still needs a bit of work, but I just, yeah, credit to him, definitely. And just credit to a lot of people who've been like kind of taken out the side and do you know what? here's another one. Christensen. Christensen. I know I keep thinking of hella players. Christensen has gotten so much stick from Chelsea fans this season and last year. And people have said that he's like the worst like centre back at our club. He's horrible. Like they've been waiting for him to like leave the club. And I don't think since what's his name got injured, Silva got injured. I don't think he's put a foot wrong. I don't think he's put a single foot wrong. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for how much he's like the level that he stepped up to, especially given all the criticism that he gets. So yeah.
Interesting. Sophia, who do you think has stood out to you the most as well under Tuchel? And Joyce, I'm going to get back to some of your suggestions as well because I feel like you make some good points as well and I will respond to that. But Sophia, who has shone for you? Or even, like, you can name a couple of players because it's not just any one. Because personally, I feel like a few players have shone under Tuchel. It's not really just any one. There's a couple that you could probably talk about. But yeah, thoughts?
I mean, I'd have to give an honourable mention to Mason Mount because he's just been continuous under Lampard and under Tuchel. But I definitely agree with Joyce in Jorginho. Like, he's literally just revived him from the dead, pretty much. Like, I thought, beginning of the season, like, he'd be gone, sort of thing. Like, never playing games. Even when he did, he was playing pretty shit. And then all of a sudden, under Tuchel, he's just like back to like how he was playing when we first got him, and I was just like, never thought that'd happen again, sort of thing. I think Kovacic definitely does get a mention. He's just, always on the ball. He's like the biggest bargain I think we ever got from Real Madrid. He's just always so consistent, and I think that's it really, just those three as much as I can think of at the moment.
Fair enough. That means like Sophia's just like she's got high standards. She's really critical. Like you really have to like shine for her.
I always get told I'm very opinionated.
Oh no, listen, you just have high standards, which is good because the players do it to themselves when they set those high standards. So when they don't live up to them, obviously they do get criticised and they are open to criticism. For me personally, I'm 100% agree with you guys about Jorginho, and obviously I know Jem's not like a huge fan of Jorginho. I wasn't his biggest advocate either. Don't really mind him. I thought he was still like a useful squad player. If I had my way, he wouldn't be like my starting choice midfielder, and I wouldn't have probably missed him if he said he was going to leave at the end of the season. But I have to hold my hands up and bite my words because under Tuchel, like you guys said, he looks like a completely different player. He looks like the best version of himself that we've seen glimpses of, but it's never been on such a consistent level. But under Tuchel, he's just kind of grown and grown and grown, and like every single game, after we're sitting there giving the play ratings or analysing, we're always sitting there having to like give him high ratings and praise him for his performances because he's really made a key difference and he's someone who's really, really stepped up as well. I also actually want to give an honourable mention to N'Golo Kante, and I know his first couple of minutes back under Tuchel was a little bit shaky, but again, that's because he was coming back from an injury, and I think the way that Tuchel was kind of like rotated and rotated him back into the squad slowly and managed him very, very well, managed him very well, has led to, those performances against Manchester United and Liverpool where his movement off the ball, his interceptions was amazing. And then it got to the performances as of late where even his movement on the ball was phenomenal. The game against Everton, game against Atletico Madrid is great. And this is the Kante that we're seeing. Like sometimes I'm sitting there like, oh my God, it feels like I'm watching Kante of Leicester, and that's what Tuchel's managed to get out of him. And it was crazy that a few weeks ago people were sitting here saying that he was finished, like that was it, he was done. Oh, he's not world class. I sincerely beg to differ because that guy is amazing and that's just proved it. And obviously kudos, big ups to Tuchel as well. I don't think this player is like a standout player, but it's another mentioned to kind of Tuchel and how he's done well to kind of rotate the squad and like very well like really utilize the depth of our squad by bringing players like Alonso back into the team, where we thought we'd seen the last of him after that West Brom game earlier on in the season. But you know, that seems to work well because he fits into the wing back system. Unfortunately, that's as far as his versatility stretches, but we are probably gonna see him leave at the end of the season, so that's okay. And I do think, you know, Reece James will go into that wing back role. I think Callum Hudson-Odoi will get better. He'll get more polished in that role as well. And also Ben Chilwell has the potential to thrive in that role too. And they will get better. These players will improve. It's just a matter of like practice, and that will come because of what an amazing manager we have. Mason Mount, of course, is somebody you have to give credit for too. Always one of our most passionate and hardworking players, even under Lampard. And I felt like Frank Lampard done him a bit of a disservice by playing him out of position, not really getting his full potential, making him work harder than he really had to as well. And that's kind of why we weren't really creating much, because it was kind of all falling to why are we all relying on this one guy to create chances? What about all our other midfielders? But it's because of the system and the formation he was playing. It was only really suited to like one or two midfield players and not the rest of our creative attacking midfield players. So who else? I don't know. I think that's pretty much. You can give credit to Kai Havertz. He's looked better. Ziyech, they've looked better. Still think it's too early to really judge them as well. Timo Werner. That's another player who does look better under Tuchel as well, and I think that's because he's finally playing him in his preferred position. And Timo Werner, I feel quite sorry for, because I feel like he's doing everything right except for finding the back of the net, which is just so annoying and so frustrating for him. But I think it's gonna come, and we can see that it's coming. In small glimpses, it's coming. Right. Joyce.
I don't know, with
Timo
Werner,
Werner.
I don't know. He's one of those people, like, if he does well, like, great, okay, we haven't wasted 50 million, but I'm not holding out much hope for him, if I'm going to be very honest. Like, he's not, I feel like there's a reason why we're going out to get a striker or to go out and get a number 9, because the player that we needed we didn't need someone who was a 9.5 or someone who was like kind of like a left forward. That's not the player profile that we needed in the summer, but we grabbed him because, if someone scores like as many goals as he did last season and there's no one else in the market, you tap them up. That's what we did. I just don't think that he's someone that we needed, and I think we're almost suffering for it because we have to make him work in the squad. He can be useful, and we've seen play like positions where he can be useful, but ultimately we need goals. He's not giving us goals. I agree. Kante is another one. Like, I think people were very, very quite reactionary about him, and how they were like ready to like kick him out and be done with him, and like he has maybe dropped off. He's not like the top consistent player that he was maybe like a few years ago, like 2018, if we're going to say like give a year or whatever, but he's still got a lot to offer us as a player. And I think that Atletico game was one of the best Kante performances for Chelsea in a Chelsea shirt. He was absolutely phenomenal. I was so like absolutely incredible. With Jorginho as well, like you mentioned, like I don't even think he's been like a brand new player. I almost feel like he's just being put in a position that suits his strengths. Yeah, smash the like button, the vibes. Like I think what he's done is like he's put him in a position that suits his strengths, like playing him in that kind of like that twin six with Kovacic as well. I think he's got a lot more like protection around him. So he's got like, 3 centre backs and a wing back. He doesn't have to drop in and kind of be like a third centre back or like drop in between the centre backs as much. Do you know what I mean? So I think the position that he's in allows him to kind of go forward when he needs to, like really make the most of his passing ability, but he's not actually being like vulnerable. Like I think sometimes people worried about him because he was being played as like a lone DM, and then like people worried about like his physicality and getting caught out in transition and that kind of thing. But actually right now, the way he's playing and the position that he's in, you know, it allows us to get the best out of him, and I think that's what a manager's supposed to do: find a position or find a formation that gets the best out of most of his players. So yeah, shout out Tuchel. I will say though, like, maybe it's just me, but I still kind of find this a little bit boring to watch sometimes. Like, our big games have been quite entertaining because I think big games can, like, that kind of cagey battle is entertaining. But against lower teams, when we're like really struggling to like break them down, I do find it a little bit like, do you know what I mean? Just a little bit. That's my one criticism. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel you, and again, you're not afraid to be savage and blunt, Joyce. And again, this is why we've missed you. This is why we've missed you. But enough. Okay, final thing I'm gonna ask you guys really quickly, right? I'm gonna go around, and I want you guys to tell me a list of players who you think we should sell and some options that you think we should aim to try and buy in certain positions. So, like, say if we need a centre back, who should we try and get? If we need a striker, who should we try and get? And then yeah, let's talk about the Champions League next. So, Joyce, who would you sell? Who would you bring in?
Oh my God. Right. So I have no idea who we should bring in. Um, like, on really and truly, I'm in terms of like, I know what player profiles I would like, but in terms of who replaces them, I'm not gonna lie and give you like random names. So I'm not sure. I know that we're in for like Haaland. I You can't say no to a player like him, and I think the reason we're trying to sign him now and not next season is obviously because of the release clause that anyone can go and like pay. I think it's like 60 million or 80 million euros. Whereas now, because we've got a lot of money, we can kind of put in a high offer and kind of grab him. But as there's not too many clubs in the world right now that can grab him, so I just hope that we can maybe be one of them. But I'm seeing 180 million. Someone posted on the TL earlier today or the other day. I don't know if that's fake, but if it's real, then that is crazy money, even for a striker. And I think, yeah, I don't know. Savage Joyce is. I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. Um, in terms of and I miss you, Charlotte. Come back. But like, in terms of players that we would probably get rid of, I feel like we're gonna have to get rid of one of the strikers to make way for another one. I feel like if we do, I think Tammy, because he hasn't signed his contract still, I do think that he might be someone that we do end up shipping off, maybe to like a mid-table club who needs a striker. I do like Tammy, like I do like him a lot, and I feel like he could be someone who's like a great, not like he's not going to be world class, I don't think. I'm happy to be proven wrong. I don't think he'll be world class, but I do think he'll be a great striker. And I just think the pressure that he is at under Chelsea to be a top performer right now just doesn't benefit him. And I feel like if he's at a club that's just a step below, where he can be the main man with just like a bit less pressure and he can just play his game, kind of like when Lukaku was going to like West Brom, Everton, like whatever, to just like play his game and just be the main man. I feel like he needs that as well, and I feel like if he has to leave to do that, because like then he should do that, and I'm like, I wouldn't be mad at it. Like you said, Werner's not going anywhere. Giroud, I'm not really sure. He's a good backup, but he's not good enough to start. And after, because he wanted to play so he could get to the Euros. Now that the Euros is happening, what happens after that, I don't know. We probably ship him off as well. Um, so those are kind of like the two strikers that are probably most likely to go. In terms of, I don't know what's going to happen with our wingers. I know we've got kind of three pretty good ones, but they're not in great form. Pulisic has been in horrible form pretty much all season. Ziyech has been kind of on and off, but he's also been injured. I don't know what happens really with him. Hudson-Odoi, I feel like will be a bit disappointed with how this season has gone as well, but I don't see him going anywhere. Um, I reckon priority is probably another centre back. I don't know which. Again, I don't know which one of them goes. Maybe Rudiger. I think will end up kind of leaving, or Christensen, one of the two. Even though they've been pretty decent on the two, but I do think they're one of the people who are going to go. One of Emerson or Alonso is probably going to get shipped off as well. We could maybe upgrade on on a backup, but they're not priority because obviously we've got Chilwell. But there's no reason for us to have like those three fullbacks on that side. Yeah, I think striker and centre back are where we're going to upgrade. Maybe a DM because I know there's people been like begging for a DM. I'd love to have like an actual playmaker in the squad. Because we've kind of, Mount kind of creative. Havertz, I think, is what a lot of people thought would be a playmaker, but he's not that profile. Like that's not his
Well, I would actually love to see a while. Like even when we were getting linked to him in the summer, I was like, yeah, like we would like that's a playmaker. That's what we need.
Yeah, I think that would. I don't just like that kind of a creative profile. I think like would be nice and just like adds like a bit of like a different dynamic to our squad because say like someone like Ziyech, she's someone he's I thought maybe he'd be more of a creative player, someone who can break down these deep blocks and like obviously he's got like a great left foot, but he's not actually a super creative player. I think he's more direct in his play.
Like breaking the lines.
Yeah, exactly. Like I would kill for someone who could break the lines and who had a vision like Cesc Fabregas. Like that would just be obviously ideal. I mean, he's like once in a not generation, but he's like you don't get a player like him every time. But I think that's the kind of profile that I would like. But also it depends on how Tuchel wants to set up long term. I really couldn't tell you based on this season. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard because again, we don't know. Okay, what kind of formation does he kind of want to use as like his plan A for the start of next season? What players is he going to get into kind of do that? It's interesting. Sophia, who do you sell? Who do you bring in?
I don't know. I think Joyce is right in thinking Tammy will go because I think he's so eager to play and he's just not being played and it's just annoying the shit out of him. So I think he'll just go. Like the first offer he gets, he'll just go. Um, really want to get rid of Alonso just because he's just not that good anymore. um, I feel like we need kind of like a big, like built, kind of beefy, like someone in defense sort of thing. I don't really have any ideas as to who yet, but we just need like a big sort of
Like a
build in
big
our
ass
defense.
centre back, yeah. So who goes then? Because Joyce said like Rudiger and Christensen, one of them's probably gonna go. And you know what? I agree with you. One of them is gonna go. And like you said, it's weird because they both really stepped up now that Thiago Silva's been injured. And like we haven't even really like sat here and been like, oh, we miss him. Like we can't wait for him to be back because they've both done such a good job. But it does look like one of them is gonna go. So who I don't know. Who would you who goes and who stays? Sophia.
I think we get more money from Christensen.
I think Christensen will go, yeah. I'd prefer Rudiger. I think he's proven himself and like he just generally does more than Christensen. So I think Christensen definitely will go. Goalkeeper wise, I think we're okay now. I know so many people were calling to have like a new goalkeeper, but I think now we've just got generally better, like, defense wise, everything wise. Like, I think Mendy's pretty good. He's not world class, but I think he's still pretty good.
He's kept like so many clean sheets, like as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Which is phenomenal. So I think you're right. I don't think we have a problem with the goalkeeper anymore. Like he has, okay, maybe he's had a few shaky moments here and there, but it's a new league, it's a new pressure. Like it's a lot to get used to, and I think he's done a really good job. He's adjusted so well. Yeah. So how about Pulisic? Because obviously there's been a lot of talk about him being so injury prone. Is it time that we cash in? But we also know what an amazing talent he can be when his potential is unlocked, when he's on form, when he's fully fit. But have we bitten off more than we could chew with that? Is it that really going to be worth it in the end?
I think that is the trouble. Like, he's generally like an American Marco Royce. Like, that guy always gets injured every season. And I think it's just come to a point where I don't think he can hack it like in the Premier League. I think Pulisic was better in the Bundesliga because it wasn't as violent and as kind of demanding. So I think that's where it's taken his toll with Pulisic. As much as he has had, he's shone in games and he has had good moments. I don't think in the future he's going to be the type of player that we need, if we're going to be winning Premier League, Champions League. We need someone consistent and it's not going to constantly be getting injured and, we're going to be like afraid and have to wrap him in bubble wrap. Like that's the kind of vibe I get. Like, oh my God, if someone touches him, like he's going to shatter like glass sort of thing. So I think I hate to admit it, but I think possibly a replacement for Pulisic.
Yeah, I agree. So let's move on to the prospect of one trophy that we are still in with a chance of winning. And of course, I'm talking about our progression to the quarterfinals of the Champions League for the first time in 7 years. Woo! After an emphatic performance, an amazing performance, so comfortable. Like, I'm surprised they only ended up 2-0 because the amount of chances we created and we should have put away, oh my God, we absolutely brushed them aside. We were so clearly dominant in that second leg. And I think it was so because Atletico Madrid had to set up in a way where they had to come out because they knew they had to score because we already got that away goal where they set up so deep in the first leg, but we still managed to break through and we still had the majority of possession in the first leg. And it was still quite a comfortable performance from us as well. So we are through. We beat them in style, 3-0 on aggregate, and we've, of course, drawn Porto in the quarter-final round. So, obviously, the big talk about this is that we potentially have a good route to the final because if we progress past Porto, then we can come up against Real Madrid and Liverpool. Both obviously great teams in their own right, but both struggling with their form this season. So, what do you guys think? How do you feel? How do you feel about this, Joyce?
Do you know what? Like, I'm just so happy that we're in the quarterfinals for the literally been 7 years, which is ages, and like it almost started to feel like we were a club that were just. I know we got hard draws, we got shafted, if we're being honest. Like we got PSG like twice, we got Barca, we got Bayern, PSG again. Like we've had really difficult draws, but also it did feel like we were almost making up numbers in the Champions League. Like, okay, we get past the group stages, then get battered by a bigger team. Okay, we're here, we're participating, then we go home. And that's not where Chelsea as a football club should be. This is a competition. Like when we're at our best, we should be getting deep runs into competition, even if we're not going to win it. If you really want to be one of the best or the better clubs in Europe. So I'm happy that we've taken this step against a big club as well, who they don't often lose in the Champions League, and if they do, it's usually because of Ronaldo. But Porto is probably the best. Well, they are the best team that we could have gotten. But I think also for Porto, they're looking and they're saying that we're probably one of the best teams that they could have gotten. Do you know what I mean? Because we've both avoided very difficult matchups. So I don't think we should kind of underestimate them. But at the same time, I'm quite happy that this is the team that we're playing. The way we've been, I think it's not that we'll brush them aside, but we've had big games, and so far in the big games that we've had, we've been pretty good. And I feel like that not even that luck, but that kind of those performances will continue, especially if we've got all our players fit. So I'm quietly confident, which is weird because before the Atletico game I had zero confidence. So it's a nice change. In terms of the semi-finals, I was saying to my mate earlier today, having a Liverpool Chelsea semi-final just takes me back to proper last decade, getting older,
literally when we used to draw them in them quarter-final, semi-final rounds,
you know
and
what I mean?
always be so close. Either one of us would get through, and it would be by an away goal or something, because it'd be 3-3 or 4-4 or 5-5 on aggregate. Some mad scorelines, honestly.
Do you know what I mean? I miss that, and obviously I would want to go against them and win. It doesn't matter who we get against. I think would obviously want to win, but it just kind of takes me back to English teams all being like deep in the semi-finals, like, like playing against each other, like, like Lampard scoring that goal and having tears in his eyes and putting his hands up, and like, like those kind of memories. Like, I kind of miss it. Like, I kind of want us to run it back, but also, if we did lose to them, I would be very much shattered. So I don't really mind who we get. Real Madrid would be like they're not the Real Madrid that won, 3 Champions Leagues back to back to back. So I'm less worried about kind of taking them on. So, bring me anyone. Let's go. But
I love that confidence. Listen, you're sounding like Prime. Prime was sitting here after we won against Atletico Madrid, going, "Bring me Bayern." I was just
whoa.
Prime, easy there, easy.
Like, I'm not saying we'll beat everyone, but I'm just saying that like they're both top teams. So whichever one we get is going to be a challenge. So just bring me anyone.
Because I feel like for us to get to this stage, we actually have people say, "Oh, we got an easy group, but we topped the group." Sevilla isn't easy, but we topped the group, right? We've come up against Atletico Madrid, who are the current leaders of La Liga. That's not an easy team. That's a test, and we got through. So we deserve to be where we are. And like literally exactly like you said, Joyce, I think we can beat Porto. We can beat this Liverpool team or this Real Madrid team. The only thing I'd fear a little bit is that I know Liverpool have this like European magic on their side. So I hope that doesn't make an appearance. So in that sense, I'd rather face Real Madrid than Liverpool, but I still feel confident enough that we have a good enough manager, a great enough squad, that we could probably beat either of them. But Sophia, what do you think? Is it coming home this year, or is that too ambitious?
I would love to be ambitious and be like, yes, we're a completely new team, like under Tuchel, but I'm still not sure. I think we're going to get really far, but I don't want to get big headed and be like, yeah, we're going to win it, like written in the stars, all these omens and stuff. Like, we went down like the same path we did in 2012, and now we're going down the same path again, and it's 2021. I mean, I don't want to count Porto out because I think they're like the best team in Portugal, I think. But I think easily we can beat them. Liverpool, easy, can knock the shit out of them. Like, that's what I think. The only one I'd be a bit intimidated by is Real Madrid. Even though people say they're really shit this year, I mean, they have Benzema and they have Ramos, and that's literally all they need. And they can still completely thrash someone in Europe. They're not doing well in La Liga, but in Europe, I think they are still one of like the big European sort of giants.
They're climbing up, I think. They've had a run of recent. They've had a good form of games recently, so they are getting closer to that top spot. So there's kind of like it's turned into a bit of a title race now. So
Atletico bottling a little bit.
Yeah, it's between the two Atleticos, but I think it's to do with their injury, and then I think they had like a little COVID outbreak as well in their camp, which I don't think helps them as well. So that's probably what's affected Atletico's form. But still a really good team. I still expect them to just about scrape by and win the league this year, though. But Real Madrid are kind of catching up to them a little bit. But I still think, like you said, I think we're good enough to probably beat this Real Madrid team. But let's just say we get past both of these rounds miraculously. We end up in the final, right? The likelihood is we're probably going to have one of the big favourites. Would you still rate our chances because it's a one-off game?
I think anything can happen in a one-off game. Like we've obviously seen in the past, having Bayern in their own backyard, the vibes. But so anything can happen in a one-off game. I do think that, the favourites will be the favourites for a reason. Our problems haven't or aren't going to miraculously go away with our forwards. And if it's a tight, cagey game, then you would chance the players who have like, if you have a team like Bayern, then you've got us, and we're not, our forwards just aren't being productive. Like Ziyech is kind of on and off form. Pulisic is just being whoever he decides to be on that day. Werner's not really like firing as well. Hudson-Odoi not really being as creative, from that right wing back role. And then you've got one of the best strikers in Europe. Even if we are being difficult to break down, the person that you fancy scoring more are going to be the better team. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's even like the worry about like playing Liverpool and like Real Madrid. Like even though we're a tough team to break down, these teams have better and more productive and more efficient forwards than we do. And I think sometimes that ends up being the difference in European ties. So anything can happen. So you can still kind of have that hope and have that confidence. But if we're looking like statistically and kind of man for man, the teams like Bayern and PSG are probably better than, well, not probably, better than we are. So
Yeah, 100%. Sophia, is that what we need? A penalty, a red card, that VAR decision?
I have to admit, if it's against Bayern Munich in the final again, I think yeah, we're going to need some form of miracle because they are just absolutely unstoppable right now in Europe and in Germany. And I just don't think the team we have now is anywhere as close comparison wise to the team we had when we beat them last time. So I think we're going to need a miracle for that to happen this time, I'm afraid.
True. Well, we might need a miracle to win this trophy. However, we might not need one to win another trophy. So, of course, I'm talking about the FA Cup, another cup competition that we are still in. So, again, Tuchel has the opportunity to potentially win two trophies in his first, what? Can you really call it half a season? I don't know. It's more like, I don't know, it's more like two-thirds of a season. I don't know, like he's coming like two-thirds way of a season,
Yeah.
somewhere like that. So that would be a great achievement considering the last manager left us in eighth. So we are through to the semi-finals. After obviously it was a bit of a boring performance, but we got the job done. I know he rotated the squad out, but still I expected better from that squad of players. But lo and behold, we got the job done and we are through to the semi-finals. But, of course, we've drawn the Giants, right? And I think it's safe to say that whoever does win this tie between us and Manchester City are probably the favourites to go on and win this, because the other semi-final is, of course, Southampton versus Leicester. Leicester obviously are a very good team and Southampton have done well to get this far in the cup. But they're not the favourites. Either us or Manchester City. The winner of that tie does look like they will be the favourites. I know Manchester City, right? But for us to have gotten this far, we do have a better FA Cup record than them as well. So bear that in mind. Do we have a chance? Tuchel versus Pep. We haven't seen that, so it's hard for us to kind of make that judgment. But I can probably bet this will be a good game. Do we have a chance? Will this be another big test for Tuchel? Joyce, I'll start with you.
yeah, I think it's definitely a big test for Tuchel. I think it's obviously another big game against the best manager in the Premier League at the moment. So I really feel like it's going to be like a really tactical kind of, maybe like quite a cagey affair, because you've got two quite really tactically like astute managers playing against each other in a one-off game. So I feel like it's going to be really, I think maybe from a neutral point of view, I feel like it might be quite interesting. For me, it's just going to be like heart palpitations for 90 plus minutes. There's always a chance when you're that far into a competition. There is always a chance in a one-off game. Again, like, you look at City's squad and you look at the players that they have and the people who can make a difference and who can make something out of nothing. And you just think, right, so they're going to be the favourites. But you just never know with these games. I still have them as the favourites in this game, but I'm not going to count us out just because anything really can happen. We've been really good defensively this season, and I think hopefully we can pull this one out of the bag.
Yeah, I like the optimism, Joy. I really do. Usually, like, there's so much
I'm
criticism,
trying,
but I
guys.
love
I'm
this.
trying.
You should go on your academic sabbaticals more often, honestly. They do you the world of good.
Let me believe
Sophia,
in.
thoughts? Can we do it? Or do you think City just might have too much for us in the end?
I feel more confident now in beating City, but I don't think it's going to be like, an amazing, like, we're going to get 3 goals to 0 or something. I think we're just going to scrape it, or I think worst comes to worst, we'll win it on penalties. But I think definitely, like now, we were on like a great run, and then the international break happened. But hopefully we can continue back on that run once international break is over. And I'm just hoping we just like flatten just every team now. Like, even Havertz like scored for Germany, and I just hope he's going to continue that with Chelsea, and everyone's going to come back, you know, raring to go for the rest of the season. So I'm going to be optimistic about this one as well, and say we can easily beat Man City this time.
I love how optimistic like we are today, guys. And I don't know, maybe it's because we've gone into this international break, 2 calls undefeated. Like everyone wanted him to come and improve a point, especially after, the love that everybody had for our previous manager and how they thought his sacking was an absolute outrage. But he's really silenced the critics, and I think that's what I really love about him so much. He's just ignored the noise, he's done his job, and he's silenced the critics like so like perfectly. Like cannot ask for any more. Personally, I have to agree with you guys. I favour our chances because I think this manager is smart enough that he can match Pep. I feel like our squad depth is good enough that we can match their squad as well. And it's a one-off game. It's a cup. It's a tournament competition. And we have a better history in the FA Cup. Fair, granted, the Carabao Cup, that's their cup. I'm not disputing that. They've got a fantastic track record in winning that. I think since it's become the Carabao Cup, they've won it 100% of the time anyway. So they've won it all the time. So that's insane. Not disputing that record. But in the FA Cup, we do have a better record than them. So I quite favour our chances in a one-off game. It's not the Premier League. Anything can happen. And hey, if Arsenal can beat them, we can beat them. Okay? And I'm just going to leave it at that. So, final thing we're going to do before we sign off, ladies. Let's take a look at our next 3 Premier League fixtures, right? So, if we look at the Premier League table, right now we're sitting in 4th place with 51 points. Yeah, I think only Everton have like a game in hand, and we're still quite comfortably ahead of them, so it should be fine as long as we just focus on our own games. So our next 3 fixtures are against West Brom, Crystal Palace, and West Ham in the Premier League. So if we win those 3 out of 3 games, 9 points. Guys, what do you think? Is it looking good? Is it looking promising? Are these winnable games? Are we going to bottle it? Or do you think after these games, we can now sit here and probably say, actually, we comfortably are going to finish in the top 4. We probably secured it. We pushed West Ham away because especially West Ham are the ones who are kind of breathing down our necks right now, and that's our 3rd Premier League fixture. So if we come up against them, if we manage to beat them, then we put a little bit of distance between us and them. So very, very quickly, I'm just going to go around to both of you. Tell me, are we going to win, lose the game? How do you think it's going to go? I know some of these games, let's not underestimate the relegation teams. I know they like to set up really defensively and make it really hard for us to score. So, score predictions. West Brom, Crystal Palace, and West Ham. Joyce.
So I think that we like in terms of like what I expect, I do think we need to win all three of these games. Because the run of games that we have in May in terms of the Premier League, I know we play Leicester, play Arsenal, we play Aston Villa, I think we play City as well. In May, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but we do have kind of a tougher run in May. So I think it's really important that the games that we're playing now or after the international break, we are just clinical, we get them done so that we can afford to drop points because as far as as great as we have been kind of being unbeaten in this run, these kind of runs will always end and we'll always get unstuck somewhere. And knowing our luck and knowing how these things go, we'll probably get unstuck by a team that we don't expect. So, we kind of had a stalemate in the Premier League the other day. Was it Leeds or whoever we played? I can't remember. But I feel like West Brom, funnily enough, might be one of those games where we might get unstuck and kind of like fail to win that game. But I do think West Ham is going to be that crucial kind of like top four because they're just behind us and they've been, knocking on the door to kind of top four for some time. So I think we need to win that game. Hopefully we will win that game, maybe like a 3-1. Crystal Palace, I think, is a game that we will win. I think we'll win like quite comfortably. But strangely enough, I don't know. I think the relegation game, like, with West Brom, I mean, they're dead and buried. I don't think there's any way of them kind of coming up. But sometimes those are the teams that like to give you trouble anyway, just because, I don't know, something tells me that our unbeaten run will end with them. But if I'm going to be like optimistic, I think we'll win all three games. 1-0, 2-0, just very kind of like close results. But yeah.
Sophia.
I'm going to be really big-headed and say I will be pissed if we don't get 3 points from each of these games. And I'm just really kind of hoping it's going to be like a 2-0, 3-0 like battering of these teams because I have no fear in either of these teams. But I think the only one I would kind of be a bit iffy on is probably West Ham. I think easily we can just brush them aside and get the 9 points from all these games and just go from there.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think the only game that's really going to cause us any stress, possibly even a little bit, is probably the West Ham game because of how great their form is. I think Crystal Palace, that's going to be an easy win. I think West Brom, I think they'll try and make it difficult. I don't think they're going to be high-scoring games, either one, the Crystal Palace or the West Brom game. But I think we will get past them, be it by 1 goal or by 2 goals. We will get the 3 points. West Ham, I think it's going to be difficult, and I think it might only be a narrow 1-0 win or a 2-1 win, but I think we will eventually get the win. So yeah, I do expect us to get at least 7 out of 9 points, if not 9 out of 9 points in those next 3 games, and I do not see us finishing out the top 4. I just can't, especially with what Tuchel's done since he's come in. Yes, I know we probably are due to lose a game before the season ends, but I didn't see us losing probably more than 1 game. I see us probably being like that City team where we barely lose any games, to be honest. So, and I like the way it's heading in. But with that being said, is there anything you guys like to add before we wrap up? Any last thoughts?
I'm just still trying to look for Man United in the Champions League. Because some of the comments are,
great point.
thrashing
Chelsea.
Chelsea
So bitter. I've noticed that actually. I've seen some of the salt. There's quite a few Man United fans in here, and I'm just thinking, guys, this is the Chelsea Ladies Show. We thank you for your support, but this is the Chelsea Ladies Show. So take your bitterness, and save it for Granada. Okay, thank you very much. Right, before we sign off, Joyce, please tell the people them where they can find you.
So the people there, wow, okay, zoomed into my face, that's cool. So you can find me here on the Chelsea Ladies Show on a Friday at 8 p.m. with my Chelsea Ladies. You can find me on Gold Diggers, usually on a Sunday and a midweek show. I'm not sure if there's an international break one, but check out their channel, Gold Diggers, and yeah, just kind of subscribe and look for kind of shows to watch. And also, I'm on the first 11, the Offside Rule, on a Thursday at 10 p.m. as well. So yeah, with Lambs as well. So come check me out.
Yes, definitely check her out. Sophia, tell the people then where they can find you. But obviously, if you guys need to refresh, Sophia's details are in the description box anyway. But Sophia.
Yeah, I was going to say my
oh no,
that way.
that is my Twitter and my Instagram. It's suburban dreams _. And obviously you can find me here. And can I just say, Indiana and Ads, they're the two Man United fans that, you know, I'm cool with you, you know.
No
hard feelings.
They just talk too much, right? Honestly. And of course, myself, you can find me on socials on Instagram. Only my handle is there at Lamia Elmed. You can find me here every Friday with these lovely ladies, and hopefully the rest of our panelists if they decide to show up and support the movement. But no, I know they're both taking very good they're both taking days off for very good reasons. So yes, please, they will be back with us. But yeah, you can find me here. You can find me on the Midnight Vibe Show, the Football Terrace. You can find me on Strong TV on Charles' channel. I do the Football and Wine Show with her every Saturday. Gosh, here, there, and everywhere really. Sometimes, but I've been a bit absentee this week because I've just been so busy, but I will try to aim to, be out there more. But yeah, really I am just everywhere. And of course you can find Jem, Ad, Sophia, and I think even mine as well, details and socials in the description below as well. Guys, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I know it's a small panel, I know it's a cozy show, but we've had a great time tonight, as we usually have, haven't we, ladies? Indeed. So with that, good night, stay safe, take care.
It's like it's free time when it's free time. In the dance, they have to take a glance. We stepping out the room.